What's going on, you guys, and welcome back onto the channel, where today we're going to get to part 2 of my little eBay shopping spree. So if you watched my recent video with this AVGA 1080 here, you would know that I originally bought this thing to pair with this 5700X 3D system. But since then, I had found a better deal for myself and decided to repurpose this 1080 for my best friend's system that I'm putting together as a congratulations gift. So you'll soon see why it pays to be my friend. But for myself, here's that better deal. It's an ASUS KO-Win RTX 3070, and I got this thing on the extreme low end of what a 3070 is worth for only $200, which is double the cost of what I paid for the 1080, but we're getting about double the processing power, and actually a little bit more than that. Now, whether you would really be able to take full advantage of that slightly more than double processing power is always going to fall down to what would your use case with it be. Now, I got this card from an eBay seller that I've bought from plenty of times in the past. So seeing the price being so low, knowing what they were saying about it, I trusted what they were saying. And the reason they were selling this card so low is because it's quite dirty, and from the looks of the brown dust and the rainbow discoloration that we have on the PCIe bracket, this card more than likely came from a smoker's household. Now, whether or not all that smoke is really going to affect the lifespan of this card, really only time will tell. But obviously today we're going to open this thing up and give it a very, very deep clean, and obviously put some fresh thermal paste on it, and you know we're going to use thermal grizzly. Now, this card does work just fine. I did immediately test it when it came in because I knew it was going to be quite some time before I was able to get to this video, and I wanted to test it out before I was outside of the return window. So I tested it with Fernmark, and yeah, it got pretty warm, which you would expect with all this brown dirt kind of clogging up the fans here, but other than that, she ran just fine. And just like everyone else, I do wish the 3070 had more than 8 gigabytes of VRAM, but the 1080 also only had 8 gigabytes of VRAM, and I don't plan on playing every single game down here that I do upstairs on my 7700X and 4070 Super build. But we are at least going from GDDR5 to GDDR6, so at the price of $200, I'm really not bothered by that at all. But let's take a closer look at the specs of these two cards and see just where all that extra processing power is actually coming from. Now, on paper, if you just looked at the base clock and turbo speeds, you might actually get the impression that the 1080 is the better card, but you'd be wrong. When we take a closer look into the raw processing power between the two cards, we see the 3070 actually has more than double the teraflops of the 1080. But why is that? Well, looking at each card individually down on the processor level, we see the 1080 uses the GP104 graphics processor, which was introduced with the Pascal architecture in 2016, while the 3070 has a GA104 processor, which uses the Ampere architecture from 2019. So looking at these two processors side by side, we can see that the GA104 has 2 more graphics processing clusters than the GP104 in the 1080, which in this case means that we can also assume that our GA104 in the 3070 also has more streaming multiprocessors, which again in this case means more CUDA cores, or shading units. And having more than double the CUDA cores means we can do more than double the math operations at the same time. But if the difference in graphics processing clusters is only the difference between 4 GPCs or 6 GPCs, then how does the 3070 have 200% the power of the 1080? Shouldn't it only be 50%? Not only did we get just more of everything in the GA104 processor, but they also shortened and enhanced the data paths for the CUDA cores. And one of the ways they did this was by cramming more than double the amount of transistors in the GA104 that there were in the GP104. And of course, our processors are going to need to interact with our memory at some point, right? Well, in going to the GA104 from the GP104, we're going from GDDR5 memory to GDDR6, which is a good bit faster and has larger bandwidth. Now, when it comes to added features, there's 2 pretty big architectural additions to the GA104 that the GP104 did not have: tensor cores and ray tracing cores. But both tensor cores and ray tracing cores were actually released before the Ampere architecture that came out with the RTX 30 series. Now, tensor cores, which we can oversimplify and refer to as AI cores, were actually first introduced in 2017 with the Volta architecture that was used in data centers. But then when it came to desktop GPUs, the Turing architecture was released in 2019 alongside the RTX 20 series, and that was the first time we had ray tracing cores and tensor cores in the desktop GPUs. And with the addition of tensor cores, we got one of the most debated topics of all time: DLSS. With DLSS and FrameGen really being a big focus for NVIDIA when it came to the 30 and 40 series now, It really left a lot of gamers who were the only reason for Nvidia's initial success feeling kind of left out and tossed by the wayside, kind of picking up AI scraps, if you will, while they focused on much larger world applications that were far more profitable than desktop GPUs for the average consumer. Now, I'm not going to comment on whether I agree with all that or not, but this is also the reason why we're seeing a lot of people trying AMD for their first time. As far as ray tracing goes, honestly, to me, this is probably one of the biggest desktop GPU developments since CUDA. Now, ray tracing cores, like I said earlier, was first introduced in 2019 with the Turing architecture alongside the RTX 20 series. Now, ray tracing cores were further enhanced again with the RTX 30 series in the Ampere architecture and the RTX 40 series in the Ada Lovelace architecture. Now, to me personally, the reason why I find ray tracing so important is because to me, ray tracing visually is a lot like a Where's Waldo book. When you first open that book, you really have no idea where Waldo is, but slowly you start to see him on every single page. And when you open that book again, you can't help but see him whether you're doing it consciously or not. You know exactly where he is, and you can spot him out of the corner of your eye. Well, like I said, that's kind of how I feel like ray tracing. Once you know the differences and what it is, you can't help but notice it. A lot of people say that they actually really can't see all that much difference between an SSR or rasterization versus ray tracing, but not everybody's eyes are the same. As we know, some people are better at finding Waldo than others. And for this video specifically, that's about as far in the GPU architecture as I'm gonna go here. But if you wanna learn a lot more and dive deeper, I really cannot suggest enough you check out Branch Education's new video on how does a GPU work. They took apart a 3090 and used digital imaging to really get down to these parts on a microscopic level, and I am incredibly impressed with this video. I've watched it probably 3 times. And I already learned this stuff years ago. So if you're interested in that video, I'll leave the link down below in the description where you can check that out for yourself. And again, I can't recommend it enough. But enough technical mumbo jumbo. Let's get this thing apart and cleaned up before it gives me lung cancer. I'm gonna go ahead and take all the screws out of the PCIe bracket too, since I want to soak that in vinegar. Man, there's a lot of them in this bracket. This is an insane amount of screws just for the PCIe bracket. It's just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 screws in this bracket alone. What do you want it to be tight? You want it to be tight, right? That's a pretty easy design, but yeah, that's lots of screws. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. For those that don't know, if you take some white vinegar with water, it gets all this rainbow stuff off. Alright, let's finish taking her apart. I'm the first one, yay! One more screw over here, and we should be good. This one. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. That's dirty. That's pretty foul. Okay, let's get you set down and get this fan disconnected. Get this. Oh yeah, we're definitely replacing those pads. That's for sure. Yeah, definitely a smoker. This was definitely a smoker. Oh boy. We'll save you, little buddy. I don't even want to put this on my desk right now. Put it over here somewhere. Okay. There we go. Okay. That is such a better way. They got these little push down tabs that clip and you can pull them right out. Saving the life here because, my God, people, this is why you don't smoke near your computer. Like, please, do not smoke near your computer. My God, this is much worse than I thought. Honestly, now I am kind of worried for the lifespan of this card, but let's do what I can.
Hey, got a light? Buzz off.
Now watch this. Ta-da! That's not perfect, but it is way better than it was before. I was able to get all the rainbow stuff off with just a little isopropyl alcohol. I'm just kidding, I basically bathed it in isopropyl. I took this whole thing apart, took the plate off, and got it all cleaned out. All these pads and pads under and pads behind the back plate here are still pretty good, so I'm just gonna leave those as is. And I'm gonna get the pads replaced on the heatsink, we'll get a new paste on, and get her closed back up. Uh-oh. We're missing a screw. Ah, I found it. Actually, the one I lost is a spring screw that goes on top of the portion that's holding down the new thermal pads over the capacitors. So that definitely could have affected our thermals. Good thing I found it. She's all clean and all good to go. Let's make sure I didn't screw anything up. All right, so first thing first, let's get you in your new home. It is sagging just a little bit, but I do have one of those little stand-up ones I think I might be able to fit right here, so I'm gonna go grab that. Nope, not even close. Oh well, she'll be fine for now. I'll have to get something eventually. Whatever, let's get her plugged in and fired up. Oh. Please still work, please still work. By the way, I'm just kidding. I don't ever actually think it's not gonna work just because I opened it up. I do know what I'm doing. All right, let's check our temps. Fans are off on it, so that's a good sign. All right, and we are at 24 degrees. So I would say massive improvement over the like 40 that it was before just idling. All right. Firm mark is looking much better. Temps are much lower. Before it was running over like almost at 80. We saved another one. I don't know if you guys can really see the KO wind lights down there, but this would definitely be a cool card to mount horizontal. What am I saying horizontally? Vertically. Alright, so yeah, this card's been sitting around for, God, about 2-3 weeks now. So I'm gonna go ahead and update these drivers and we'll play some games. It feels good to finally be done upgrading my stuff. Now I get to build my best friend a computer. Yay! This is why it pays to be my friend. I just build you computers, whether you ask me for one or not. Like I keep saying, he's got a 2008 Mac, so he's gonna get basically a Back to the Future 2 experience. But hey, look what I found. It's a little baby one. Problem solved. And there we go. The semi-outdoor gaming space is complete. Now, if only I actually knew more people around here that gamed on PC. Could have some pretty sweet LAN parties down here. The router is just on the other side of that wall. We don't game on Wi-Fi around here. Get good! Alright, so I don't think we really need to benchmark this thing with multiple games or anything like that. You know, I think we really all know what a 3070 can do at this point. So I'm just going to play one of the games that I was planning on playing down here, which obviously, as you can see, is some Red Dead 2. You know, because I want to climb to the top of the highest mountain, sing the songs I want to sing, that kind of shit, you know? You know, I see a lot of people these days asking, you know, as we're right around the corner of the 50 series, asking if they should upgrade from a 10 series to a 3070, and you know, it's the VRAM, the VRAM is definitely going to be an issue for a lot of people for sure, but for me, like, I really didn't plan on playing like every game down here. Honestly, the kind of games that I'm really going to be playing down here is not necessarily a bunch of stuff like Red Dead. I don't know, maybe on a nice day like today, but I plan on playing like a lot of horror games. Like, I actually haven't played any of the Resident Evil remakes yet, and I kind of want to play some of those down here. You know, stuff like that. What's up, Charles? Oh no, Charles, you're in my mind. You know, if you're somebody who like only plays, you know, the newest releases, then no, I probably wouldn't go with a 3070. You know, something like a 4070 Super, where at least you're getting 12 gigabytes. That's kind of the new sweet spot if you're gonna be playing in 1440. Like, if you're gonna be playing in 1080, then yeah, you could definitely get away with a 3070. But with 1440 monitors becoming as cheap as they are now, like, I honestly expect to see 1440p become a lot more prominent. See a lot of people get off 1080. I think esports will still see 1080 be dominant for a while, but you know, as far as people like me, you know, just home gamers, I think we're gonna see 1440 usage go up a lot. Not 4K though, because that is way too expensive. It's amazing how much more efficient the 40 series ran than this. I mean, this thing pulls more power than my 4070 Super actually, and obviously my 4070 Super is a lot better than this. Well, not a lot, but much. You know, a good bit. The coil whine on this seems to have calmed down. I don't know, maybe working just a little bit more of those smoke toxins, but it's doing quite well. Honestly, for $200, if I get, you know, 2.5 years out of this thing, I'll be happy. If it dies sooner than that, like, I'm not gonna blame the eBay store. I'm not gonna be mad. These things happen when you buy used GPUs. But, you know, it's not like they didn't lower the price or warn you about how dirty it was. They literally said they did not want to clean it. So, that's kind of saying something. So honestly, temperature-wise, like, when you consider the extra power draw, it's like the exact same temperatures as my 4070 Super. You know, the 4070 Super tops out at like 71, 72 maybe when I'm playing something like a Cyberpunk, but the fact that it's pulling a good, you know, 10 to 15 more watts on average is obviously gonna contribute to a little bit of heat. How about that CPU temperature? I'm telling you, man, these Thermalright prisms are like probably the best bang for your buck cooler out there, honestly. At least when it comes to water coolers. AIOs, whatever. I see him. I see you. Haha!
Over there, where the birds are.
Where are these birds you speak of, Charles? I'm coming, Charles. Leave Charles alone. Finish her off with a nice cold Bud Heavy. Alright, now that mission's over, let's go ahead and restart it so we can get the DirectX on. DX12, my old friend. Funny. There we go. Now that we got DirectX 12 on, now we got that 100%. 100%? Yeah, I was wondering. That was a little weird for it to be just like super steady at 97, but not go to 100. Like, it was really weird. Honestly, considering not even leaving any of the Vulcan part in the video. Nah, I've said too much already. You know, I know the 3070 isn't for everybody. You know, I'm sure there's gonna be some people that watch this video and say, 8 gigabytes, 3070's trash, but, you know, at the end of the day, this purchase was for me. And honestly, looking at this performance here, especially after getting DirectX on, I am more than thrilled with my purchase. Now, if it dies in 6 months, then I'm gonna be a little irritated, but right now, I'm happier than a fly on, happier than a dog with a bone, happier than a cat with privacy. I don't know, catnip? A ball of yarn, something like that. Happier than a cat with a can of tuna. There we go, that sounds better. I feel like I can get that temperature a little bit lower though. I might have to open it up again sometime soon and see if I can clean it a little bit more. I really wish I knew somebody with an ultrasonic cleaner. I don't have one. Maybe I'll be able to afford one one day if Easy Tech sells a lot of computers. Maybe one day. Probably gonna be playing a lot of this game online with my best buddy once I get him his computer here next week, and he's been playing it on his PS4, and if you've ever played Red Dead Online on PS4, like the FPS is absolute dog, so I refuse to play it with him on PlayStation. One might say that's part of the whole reason I'm building him a computer for free.
Alright, I'll grab the white one in the middle, you get the other two.
Awfully HWH of you there, Arthur, wasn't it? Alright, so I guess we're gonna top out at 76. That's good. That's good. As long as we don't hit 80, I'm good on this. I'm still definitely gonna open it up more later on and clean it some more. I have to. Alright. I think it's time to go to bed. It's a work night. You know, that's why you guys should subscribe to the channel and share and help this channel grow, so that, you know, maybe one day I can quit my current day job and have more time to actually throw gameplay into these videos. If you want, you know, if you like me. Do you like me? Do you like me? So yeah, all in all, I'm definitely happy with my little upgrade here. I don't know if we can really call it an upgrade since this thing didn't have a GPU before, but I'm calling it an upgrade over the 1080 that I would have used if I didn't get this. And yeah, sure, at some point in the future I might get a little upset with the VRAM situation, but for now, it'll be totally fine for the games that I plan on playing down here. And yeah guys, that's pretty much it for this one. If you want to watch that branch education video about GPU architecture, I'll leave the link for that down below in the description. And I'll also leave the link for the 1080 video where I actually broke it and then fixed it. That'll be down in the description as well. And other than that, make sure you guys check out our free PC giveaway. You still got about 30 days left to become a subscriber and enter to win. And until then, we'll see you guys next time.